Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and welcome to another episode of Deep Web Browsing. Not just another episode, but episode number 100, technically, on our, quest for browsing the danker side of the internet. Now, a lot of people have said, what's sort of special about episode number 100? Honestly, I really had nothing in mind to really make it special. I thought I would just make it another regular browsing episode, but then I thought about capstoning this video off, sort of capstoning 100 episodes off, because if you think about it, it's almost 100 hours, 90 to 100 hours recorded and uploaded of just browsing this part of the internet. Not mentioning the fact that, obviously, for every hour that's uploaded, there's also 3 or 4 hours of footage that gets completely, that's like the raw footage that you got to edit out, so it, ends up being like 40, 50 minutes, close to an hour. So there's been a lot of deep web browsing, clearly, that's happened on this channel. And the first video that I've noticed, from a long time ago, if I can actually pull it up right here, the exact upload date primarily for that, if I can just pull it out, should have had this out beforehand. But the very first video we had posted over here, which was browsing for the first time, which we're going to sort of come back to, was uploaded about two whole years ago. So a lot's really changed. Me living in a different location, getting a bearder, much more fatter in general, and all that kind of good stuff. So clearly a lot's really happened. A lot's occurred since then. Equipment's been changed and whatnot, but the core video has basically been the same. We've basically been browsing the danker side of the internet, of course, looking at it June 22nd, 2015. So yeah, about almost 2 years ago, a little shy of that, right? But almost 2 years at this point. So we've clearly seen a lot of websites, clearly seen a lot of Tor links, videos, whatnot, and what's really changed? Of course, nothing really. We're still on the quest for browsing more, but I figured today I'm going to show you a little bit of the behind-the-scenes kind of stuff, sort of show you some footage that's never been released, sort of explain some of these misconceptions, because the more and more videos that I do post, the more and more questions that keep getting thrown out, the more and more questions that keep getting asked about, what not to do, what kind of stuff is on here primarily, and, basically what to look up next and things like that. So I guess I'll sit through, answer that stuff, and sort of show you the behind-the-scenes kind of deep web browsing too. So let's take our first cut and go into the original deep web browsing website that we went to. So I think a lot of people that have been here since the first video was posted notice this site notice this site primarily. This is the Hidden Wiki. Now, primarily there are many hidden wikis out there, and the story behind this is that this is actually not the original hidden wiki that we looked at through the first episode. Why do I know this? Because as far as I recall, that original hidden wiki that we went to is all down. Those websites are gone, and that's a very important thing about the deep web browsing videos that I like to cover too. I like doing them every week, but you have to understand that I don't necessarily find those websites the same day. Throughout the week, I'll spend like a couple minutes of my time giving, browsing the deep web for whatever I can, and scouring the sites, adding them to my to record section later on. Websites that I have amassed that I'm gonna line up and look at later. I don't look at them at the time of finding them. Obviously, I just open the tab, leave it aside, and then I watch it the day of recording or whatever that day might be throughout the week. Could be any fucking day. It's obviously not Sunday because you have to get these things sort of edited out, processed, reviewed, and then sent up to YouTube and whatnot. So, typically these things are recorded at like Tuesday to Saturday or something like that. Sometime in between then. Obviously, when I was down, and whenever I travel or whatnot, which often happens, the videos are recorded much often in advance, much like any other video on this channel. So, looking around on the hidden wiki over here, this is not the original one that we've been to. This is one of the many ones, and the reason why there's many is because the PGP key, as far as I know, has been stolen from the hidden wiki, and so anybody can host their own hidden wiki technically. And that's why there's many versions out there. There's also not just a hidden wiki. There's also, if I can just open it up, the uncensored hidden wiki, where you get to see a lot more, risque material, things such as weapons, articles on the whole child pornography rings and whatnot that happen over here and in the ClearNet and whatnot. And there's also hidden wikis dedicated to certain languages, such as the French hidden wiki and the Japanese hidden wiki. Obviously, I don't show you those hidden wikis because I don't fluently speak French and I fluently don't speak Japanese, so I wouldn't really fucking help you out in that situation. Now, aside from that, a lot of the other places we find websites at are things such as Visitor. There's also Harry71, but that's actually been down for over a month at this point. And I typically have a whole section of other link lists that I use. Yeah, link lists are very important when you're trying to find deep web websites or anything of the sort, because this is typically where you want to look for this or IRC chat rooms. Look around over here. This is one of the original link lists that we use, Onion Directory. And if you can actually look at it, some of the websites that we looked at are actually pretty fucking... Wait, actually, hold on. This is the uncensored hidden wiki. We'll open that up in another tab. But some of these websites we actually been to, for example, Parasite we've been to, which will all open up right here, where it's going to be a little, throwback to the very first episode that we have. The important thing to notice is not all websites will be available, because like I said, the websites over here get taken down all the time. Some of these websites get a little bit of an update. This, for example, has an update. I haven't looked at it for maybe 40 episodes at this point, but you get access to newer files and whatnot. But going back again to the main page, going back to the Onion Directory, you can see a lot of these websites are pretty similar to the ones we went to. For example, UK Guns and Ammo, used Tor Guns, Amazon Business, I think I've shown you that, Apple for Bitcoin, Project Evil, things like that. A lot of the marketplaces are still obviously there. Hell, I even have this Alpha Bay market opened up, which we looked at initially. It's one of the more popular marketplaces on the deep web too, like ramp shops and whatnot. Go back to the UK Guns and Ammo store. We've looked at this before. I don't remember which one. I think it's in the first 10 deep web browsing videos. We looked at Glock 19s. They're still selling the same old stuff. Again, I don't know the legitimacy of this. I've never bought a gun off of the deep web. This is, I wouldn't buy it, wouldn't recommend it, but, maybe this is real, maybe it isn't. I have no idea. But we've seen these websites before. Some of these stick up, some of them don't. Typically, I've noticed the ones that do stick around are, the ones that really matter. What is this? Marianic Technology Services. Let me fire that one up real quick. Some of the other sites, for example, that have been taken down recently are Strategic Intelligence Network, and I believe this is from deep web browsing in between the 10s and the 20s where we looked at this, and this is filled with documents related to survival, to government, this is where we found the Al-Qaeda handbook, if anybody can remember that one. But the problem with this is that this website has faced a attack, it seems, and they're trying to restore the website, and data is missing. So that's sort of the downside with using Tor or any of these, freenet type services, is that even throughout the week, when I'm browsing deep web videos, it often becomes an issue where I might have a video that I found on Wednesday, but when it comes time to say record on a Friday, the website might be taken down. And because the website's taken down, you can't really browse it. So axe that website entirely. So, for example, some of the Trump websites where we looked at, there was one website we looked at about Donald Trump before his election. I'm trying to remember which one it is. But that website no longer exists. And some of those websites, they only exist for a little bit. For example, when France had their terrorist attacks in Paris, they had a donation website up, right? Which I sort of completely vehemently pulled people away from, saying that was not, legit, doesn't seem legit. And frankly, that was a website that goes down, it comes back with the same layout, but it changes depending on what national tragedy really happens. I wouldn't be surprised if, considering the recent Manchester attacks, they would actually have a fucking website dedicated to it. This is one of the websites that we originally looked at, the fake passport website. Some of them get a little bit of a facelift, face change, but the core thing is the same. This is where you can buy like passports from Canada, from the US, from Australia, from like New Zealand, from the United Kingdom, see right over here, Belgium, Canada, Austria, France, Finland, Germany, Netherlands. And again, they're just falsified passports. The legitimacy of this, I cannot answer for you because I've never bought anything off of this. I wouldn't buy anything off of this. And frankly, I think buying illegal government IDs is, pretty fucking risque. Would not do it. Definitely would not use this shit considering the amount of security they have at the airports regarding these SmartGate passports. This is the Beneath Virginia Tech Steam Tunnels website. For those of you who don't recall that, we looked at this website that specifically focused on the steam, electricity, and telecommunication lines that ran under the campus. Now, as far as I know, this was actually illegal for them to do. This was trespassing right into a part of the Virginia Tech campuses. But if you look around over here, this website is still accessible. And I believe they also have a clear web link as well. They'll tell you, again, the dangers. We looked at this all the way back in the day. I remember this I remember this as vividly as back then. We looked at this and we were surprised at some of the trips that they had, 9 trips and whatnot. And I believe This website actually got a little bit of an update since we last focused on it. As you can see, remember that picture from back in the day, right? This is one of the tunnels that we looked into. Going back to the link list primarily, here I'm going to show you just one of the link lists. I feel like if you see one of the link lists, you've basically seen them all. They're essentially almost all the same. They all use the same sort of algorithm when they send out their spiders to track down onion links, and they all really get the same results out there. There are some better than the other ones. Some of them actually have more features, such as telling you whether one is a scam or not, or some that actually will tell you straight off the bat if a site is up and running or if it isn't. But you can look at it, things like Bitcoin mixers, they're all still there. Services, wikis, forums, social, chatting, which is IRC chat rooms. Again, be careful, don't actually use your real fucking name on this shit. Emails, you got your fucking, you got your Torbox, you got your Lelantos email project, which we looked at one time a long time ago. Cockmail, which is an entirely new mail for me to know. I never knew there was a Cockmail. In fact, what I've seen missing out of this is Segaint, which I believe might have been taken down or something like that, or it probably got a rebranding. Here it has blogs, Rebel Stronghold, it's got press, you can read like the Tor, I guess CNN if you want, get some news out of that. There's also like links to WikiLeaks, things like that, books. You can download books illicitly, like, a whole library out there, which of course is very important because if for those of you who don't know, again, one of the primary reasons to have Tor is, again, anonymity and fighting censorship. Some countries you can't get access to certain pieces of media, so this is probably the best way some people can have access to it. And again, it sort of ties into that whole there's good and there's bad to a lot of this stuff, rather than just being one thing, completely on the bad side. Tor is both good and bad. It depends on the users really behind it. Now, one of the questions that do get asked too is like how easy it is to find do you ever come across like child pornography, things like that. The reality of that is that you will never really come across it unless you're actively searching for it, which if you're actively searching for child pornography, you're committing a fucking crime, for those of you who don't know. The reason why I say it is that, now of course, that's a little bit of a lie. If you use any of these onion link websites, any of these, for example, if you use like Harry71, which will list you onion links, right? And onion links you can always sort of look at. For example, let's look at one over here, right? So you got onion soup. Now you can look at the link over here. Now, of course, the link always looks like it's just a bunch of jumbled like letters and numbers and whatnot, and that's true. But if you look at the first little section of the URL link, you might always notice there's something like soup, right? Or for example, the tourist. There's literally tourist in the front of that link, right? Or you look at something like Soylent, that's a little bit of a fuck up over here. It's not really, Soylent in the beginning. It's just, again, a random chunk of numbers. So, of course, sometimes you get that, sometimes you don't. And when you look at an onion link list, one that's without any thumbnails to look at, one that's without even any, headers, right? Like something that would tell you mail file, email that protects your privacy. Sometimes it's literally just this part of the link, right? And you might click on that and very, very minute times you might come across actual pornography, but most of those sites, they'll have something written like pedo in the front of it. So, of course, if you're clicking on something that has pedo in it, you shouldn't fucking be surprised if it has some risque material behind it. Risque material exists, but chances are you're not going to find it unless you're actively looking for it. There's been many times on deep web browsing where I've shown you, forum entrances or like articles covering this kind of stuff. And I usually have a policy myself, is I never really show that kind of stuff because there's no point showing you guys child pornography forums. It's not fun for anybody to watch, and frankly, it's pointless to really look at. It might be edgy looking content, but frankly, we all know it's there. We don't need to fucking delve further into that rabbit hole just because that's not something I think any of us really want to fucking see. But the reason I show some of those things is because there are times where you find funny stuff on the deep web, but you also have to show the bad side of it too, right? You have to show everything in fucking normal moderation. And my policy is that if I can find something in 10 minutes by looking at these link lists, or, for example, I can look at the Hidden Wiki article that just recently got pimped out, which Hidden Wiki is one of those first places, if you're ever going to try deep web browsing, you're going to get to. But the reason I show it is because if I can find it in like 10 minutes, just starting off before I sip my coffee, you're going to find it too. Easy as hell. That's how it's going to play out. That's just how it really works. And if it takes me longer than that, if you actually have to go out of your way to look for it, there's no point showing it. I fucking won't even find it. You have to be actively looking for really depraved shit to end up finding it. Things like red rooms, you know, you might see those scammy red rooms initially, but that's what they all are, scams. It's not really logically feasible for you to be live streaming somebody's death over the Tor relay. It might seem edgy to find a website like that, but there's no reality that really happens. If that realistically was to happen, it's probably easier for you to create a program, client and server programs, and just transmit encrypted protocols right off that. It's much easier to do that than to just work off of Tor. It's kind of stupid to really perceive that to be the case on this side of the things. That's just that it's just technically not feasible to the extent that some people would like to, theorize. One of the many websites that we initially came to was Intel Exchange. For those of you who don't remember, we looked at Intel Exchange a long time ago. This is one of those websites that's a little weird to me because I've seen like 3 different Intel Exchange URLs on the deep web, which leads me to believe that the same thing that happened to the hidden wiki happened to the Intel Exchange. Sometimes you can kind of tell if they're real or not by looking at, their statistics can get really screwed over here. Like, look at it, it's not even tracking topics or posts. But if you go over here, you'll see that they've got some new sort of stuff going around. They got like Strategic Intelligence Network, which we just looked at. It got about 115 posts. We're going to look into that. The Veil of Truth and Intro Deportation and Nation. This is just a general discussion line of it too. Anonymous Laptop, Poison Making, Atlantalk, Jack of All Trades, Where Can I Get Cracked Netflix Accounts? Cicada 3301, we looked at that a long time ago too. It's basically like the test you have to pass to get into that secret society. Go over here, they're basically talking about the Strategic Intelligence Network as well. So again, the forums are still over there. You can basically get access to a lot of this kind of stuff. We go back, we can look into sort of links and resources. The unverified user section sometimes has some interesting stuff. But we can go into the conspiracy, which is one of my favorite boards personally. So we're going to go over here. Now, again, this seems like it's kind of an active board, too. They've got, like, Sin is back, which means that there is something going on over here. What is this, somebody writes, and Darkest Depth. We're going to look at that real quick. It's kind of like, see how it's kind of like, going back to a little bit of that deep web browsing life, I guess you could say. They've got an Illuminati page over here that, you can access right now if you want. But they got, like, ClearNet and Tor, which a lot of the Tor websites, they have, like, a ClearNet version of them, too. It's a lot more easier to access that way. Over here, this guy's got Darkest Depth, MI_7, and he's got like this fucking like long string of characters, some cipher going around, pretty edgy. That was 22 weeks ago. Again, I have not looked at intelligence networks since like deep web browsing 40, so this shit is fucking new as sin to me, dude, let me tell you. You go over here, the social media revolution, assassination market, you're going to look into that, that's going to be interesting. Planet X, the Pamgaea theory. I'm surprised there's no flat earth conspiracy going on around here. That's what I would be expecting, you know what I mean? But let's go into this. What happened to the assassination market? Always read stories. For those of you who don't know what the assassination market was, basically it was like a Bitcoin crowdfunding where they had like names of really famous people like the owner of the Federal Reserve, and you could like put Bitcoin into a pot and somebody would guess the date they would die, and if they died that day, they would get the pot, right? Minus the site fees. And of course, the logic was that only somebody who would kill that person would know the exact date of their death. That was the whole point of it. That was basically the spooky stuff behind that. So yeah, the Intel Exchange is over here, and here's one classic one. I looked at this. I want you to know my story. Remember this one. This is one we actually looked at. Holy crap, we actually looked at this one a long time ago. So this was 2 years and 44 weeks ago. That we looked at way back in the day. So this is actually coming full circle into the whole story of deep web browsing. Jesus Christ. This is about if I'm looking at it real quick. Yeah, this is like a creepypasta. Some dude in Buenos Aires finding some shit in the oceans, dude. It's fucking weird. But yeah, that was the Intel Exchange, so we're gonna hit up something else real quick. As far as the videos that are considered that show up in the deep web browsing episodes, it's interesting how they're found. Usually, many of those videos are helped by the community behind it. So people sending and sharing links of that kind of stuff. Finding those videos around on IRC, and most importantly, finding them on places where you have like FTP, like to web servers, where they just have downloads of videos available. That's a little bit risky due to the fact that you're downloading videos that you don't really know what they contain, so it could just be any depraved kind of material. So you got to be careful with that. A lot of those videos are actually, to be honest, ripped out of, things such as Dailymotion or a lot of these video sharing websites that are available on the ClearNet. Things such as Push, for example. I think like a private video sharing website where you just like share links to specific people you know, and they get downloaded, they get cut up, or they get downloaded whole, and they get sent out to the deep web, and somebody comes out and downloads them. And of course, all these videos end up being the edgy videos, and because they're edgy videos, it adds that little bit of a spooky layer to it that ultimately scares the people that come across and watch it. It's videos that, of course, are given context free, have no idea what they are, except they're trying to be scary and whatnot. And initially, in the first 20 25 episodes, they were kind of creepy to watch, just because, being new to the kind of stuff again, and sort of dipping the foot into the pond and seeing just the kind of weird, creepy answers you get. But by the time episode number 30 and above came by, it was kind of stuff that you could sit around and laugh at, because it was just really hilarious kind of video content, videos made to be edgy, and it became its own little joke in a way. Sometimes, of course, in the middle of those, like, you did get videos that kind of threw you in for a loop. Some videos that really, really did creep you out, because, sometimes you just come across that one shocker video. Sometimes you come across that ARG that hits you a little close to home than you would have rather expected. But most of the time, the videos are pretty laughable, I guess you could say, for the most part. Some of them have been interesting, I guess you could say. To my knowledge, the best video that I still recall, the one that really hits me, was not the Ray TV where they were feeding that guy stuff, and they had the two like masked motherfuckers, patting the dude on the back, and the dude was crying. But it was that one where the lady was pointing the sign up to the fucking to the CCTV camera, telling you about some. It was getting creepy. It was going through. It had a little story, and at the end, the walls were coming down, and there was some creepy shit. That to me was probably the better video, I guess, out of all of them. There were some, such as the deep web vlogs, where the person didn't talk, but they just walked around recording the neighborhood. That kind of weirded me out a lot too, because it gave me this aura of mystery around saying that what could this really be? Why would somebody be spending their time just recording the public, making them see and then fucking off somewhere else? The ones that I liked but ultimately didn't hit me the most were ones that were really overproduced, the ones that looked too damn good, and they tried to give this nice story. I like the ones that were simple, and they made you wonder a whole lot, because there wasn't really a whole lot to really pick up from those videos themselves, and they weren't overproduced either, so they fit this really weird gallery too of just mind-fucking videos. So the videos you end up finding out, again, through multiple different methods, right? There's not just one method. There's not like a deep web YouTube page that you can like pull off, right? You have to sort of scour the internet for as much as you can throughout the week and find one through IRC, through file server sharing websites, through the ClearNet at times, through the community, and find those videos in that regard. So that's just how the deep web videos are really found, and that's how they're really showcased as well too. Again, they're all mostly edgy because of the content they come from. When you add a mysterious place such as Tor, you're going to have mysterious videos like that. I really hope someday I get some really, really stupid, video that I would not expect to be on there and throw me completely for a loop. And to that day, I'll have to wait for the next set of 100 episodes in this series, right? Hopefully. So what I said at the start of the video, when I said that a lot of the deep web browsing videos ended up, they said they have like 3 or 4 hours of record time, and you only really get to see the edited down version. There's actually a lot of the stuff that doesn't really make it out. I actually made a video of a lot of the cutting room floor segments of the deep web browsing, where I took like unused segments from a lot of different deep web browsing videos, put them into one video. But I don't really do that, even though I can, just because I like these videos to have some form of a consistent theme to it. Like, I don't want to just have me non-consistently recording different parts of the week and just putting them together. That's not really how I like doing this kind of stuff. I like having it in one straight shot. But for example, I pulled up Deep Web Browsing 77. I have a lot of my old episodes completely archived, like the raw footage. You end up saving it, putting it away, just because after you're done cutting something, it's just there to look at, right? In case you ever want to pull something out that's unused. So here I put like sequences where I have it unused entirely. So it's like a 7-minute sequence where I was looking primarily at this service called Agento, which I think I showed people later on. I don't think this is entirely unused, but one of the unused segments that I did look at over here was looking at a life-ruining service. And a lot of these get taken out for a very specific reason. Sometimes when you're doing a deep web browsing video, you have a theme that you want to kick off, but the thing is that if the theme, is like conspiracies or something like that, right? And you have like almost all the websites focusing on that one theme, except for one other, outlier. you don't want to just toss in something completely hitting the mark and completely kill off if you can make a theme out of an episode gone, right? You want to keep the theme primarily. And sometimes, we've looked at many of these hacker life-ruining services anyways, or assassination services. They're fun to look at, but if I say I already covered one hacking service, I'm not going to cover another hacking service in the same video. That's kind of just redundant. Unless the site itself has something really special to offer. For example, right over here, he was like, there's a lot of scammers here on the deep web, and in this line of work, you should look out who you're talking to. There wasn't really anything over here that was so terribly fucking different that I had to really omit this and look at something else, right? Like, let me hit play on that. Here I am talking about it, blah, blah, blah. But it's something that I omitted because it really didn't make any sense for the video. I could have covered anything else, or it's something that was taking up too much time in the video anyways. Like, it was already running too long, so I cut things out of it just to keep it running at a more consistent rate. Of course, the run times are all over the place, but sometimes I take it out for multiple reasons, and that's to be expected. Do I ever keep them around for the one day I use them? For something like Agento, I probably would never use this because it's like Deep Web 77. This is like prior to Deep Web episode 100 today. And I think anything after episode 100 is going to be, content entirely newer for that line of videos itself. And that in episode 77 is too old. We're at like episode 99. That's like, this is like half a year ago at this point, right? Like, if we're looking at it on a weekly basis, there's no point really covering the videos when they're that old, right? Like when they're like when they're over 20 weeks old. This is like 23 weeks gone at this point, right? That's almost half the fucking year if you think about it. So I wouldn't cover it again, but I'd like to leave it there just because I never really delete my archive videos anyways. Like, as long as my edit files goes, they're all still there. So it'll forever be sitting over here dormant like many of the other unused segments. There's many hours that have been left unused for many various reasons. But yeah, hey, if you ever really do want to see them, let me know, and I might compile them and cut them together and release them, at some point in the future. Now, there's not much else for me to really talk about, except I wanted to capstone Deep Web Browsing episode number 100, and the reason why I wanted to capstone it off was because I really didn't want today to just be, let's browse the deep web again or something like that. I wanted to sort of close it off and revitalize it and come back strong and look at, the deep web hopefully in another 100 episodes, maybe less than that, maybe more than that, see how far it goes, because I've always really said in the beginning that I'm going to keep on looking at as much of the interesting parts of the deep web as I can that exist. The moment that it ends is the moment the series really ends, right? The moment that the websites all just compile into ramp shops or alpha bay market links is the day that you sort of stop and you cover something else important on the internet or in gaming or whatever. And one other thing that I do want to say about this too, now that we're at episode number 100, if you've noticed, one thing is nobody's fucking shot a sniper rifle through the fucking window at this point, right? I've always really done this series behind a window. Right? The reason I'm saying it is because a lot of people have a lot of fear of using the deep web. My camera's completely fucking failing on the autofocus. But a lot of people have these misconceptions with the deep web, thinking that it's a very scary environment, that you're gonna die if you use it, or that there's very spooky people on there. The reality of that is so far from the truth that it's not even funny. It's probably statistically easier for you to die on the clear web, if anything. Spooky people exist in any part of the world, any facet of society, anywhere. And when you're talking about the deep web, I have found much more weirder shit on the clear web than I have on the deep web itself. And even on the deep web, if you stick to basic things like not using your real name, not telling people where you live, not, leaving trace evidence behind of you visiting sites or whatnot, and, you use a VM, you use secure protocols, you use basic, logic, you're going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen to you. I've been fine so far. Nothing weird has happened. Nobody's, put a gun to my head. There's nothing crazy that's occurred. It's all been good, and if 100 episodes can be managed, you're going to be just fine. The reason I make this series is not to just show you guys the kind of fun stuff, to have a fun time. It is having a fun time. Obviously, capstoning every Sunday, just by browsing the part of the internet that's a little too dank for regular viewing, just sitting down and sort of, basically, it's almost therapy at this point. It's not just to show you websites, it's also to let you guys know that you can do the same. Just download the Tor Relay, get onto it. The more people that go onto it, the more fun there's going to be. It's always fine being a noob. You get to learn something new, try your hand at something new, see some new stuff, and that's really all there is. And again, if you're still too scared, or you still don't want to, or you like this series as a way to get your access into this kind of stuff without you doing it yourself, that's all fine too. But I always like it when people go on this kind of stuff. And a lot of people on this community on YouTube that specifically cover deep web content, I find, do it in a way where they make it look as negative as possible. Like, oh, there's just child porn, there's snuff rings, there's all this crazy stuff. And throughout 100 episodes like that, I've never found half of the outlandish stuff that a lot of people here have been really making up. It seems like a lot of people have turned the deep web into some form of a creepypasta, and that's pretty hilarious, because again, that is pretty far from the fucking truth. It's a pretty mainstream aspect, and you can see why a lot of people make the deep web a very popular thing. You see it in like media all the time. A lot of things are covering the deep web or the dark net or things like that, and they make it sort of really edgy and hardcore. And I like doing the series because it's always fun when you have a series where even on one episode, on any random episode, it can be a good website, a funny website, a conspiracy website, a website about alien genitals, and then it can be something really, edgy and dark, and you can have all of that combined. So you have the entire spectrum of both good, bad, funny, interesting, boring, and wild. You get all of that. And I think that's why I like doing deep web browsing. I feel like a lot of people in this YouTube community or the internet community that cover a darker subject like this do it in a way where they make it sensationalized or try to scare the audience into not ever wanting to try it themselves. So without going on too terribly long, I wanted to really thank you all for your continued support for 100 episodes of deep web browsing. I know this video might have been all over the place, but I really wanted to sort of get a lot of things out there, to really get everything capstone, to really finish it all off, to really finalize it for 100 episodes that we've done. Put the lid on it and open the lid to episode 100 to hopefully episode 200 and see how that venture goes. We've seen a lot of stuff in 100 episodes, 2 years. So let's see what we find in the next series of episodes on deep web browsing. And hey, maybe in a couple years we might have something else we'll be looking at entirely. So this channel always grows, the channel always evolves, and the community I love to death, and I hope that I've delivered you guys an interesting product, hopefully that you've been interested, invested in as time goes on, and hopefully I keep providing that to you. It's as important to me as much as it's important to you. So, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it. This is me, Mudahar. This is not a Sunday, obviously. This is actually Saturday morning, to be honest. I got nothing to do today. So, this has been Deep Web Browsing, celebrating 100 episodes, I guess, of Deep Web Browsing, counting this one. Let's see what's on episode 101 next week, ladies and gentlemen. This is me, Mudahar, and I am out.